Hey everybody, Pastor Nathan here, and welcome to my second office. These are the grounds of Playa Vista as I've figured out where are all the hidden places that I can study under the shade and the cool breeze. It's such a nice place to do devotions with the Lord. And today I wanted to bring you a pastoral care video and do it a little differently today. You remember the question that I asked on Sunday? What was it? It was based off of King Hezekiah's life, and it was, did he end well? Did he serve the Lord faithfully at the end of his life? And I hope you've been reading 2 Kings chapter 20 as that brings the rest of his life to the totality of what we know. And you've been wondering what's been going on, because he's been given something special. The Lord heard his cries. The Lord heard his prayers as he wept bitterly and said, "Remember me, Lord. I'm on my deathbed." And this is during the time when the king of Assyria is attacking him and he doesn't know what to do. He's also having a personal crisis of his health and he's going to die. And he cries out to the Lord, and thank God he did, because God said, "I'm going to give you 15 extra years of your life." Wow. Can you imagine if you knew the time frame of how long you're going to live? How would you live? Well, that's a different sermon for another day, let's just say. But I want to go on to share what took place during the rest of that chapter, because that's what we need to talk about here. So we see in 2 Kings 20, starting in verse 12 to verse 21, the king of Babylon, who would be the next superpower after Assyria, sends a letter and gifts for Hezekiah to get better. But he also sends some people over, and Hezekiah takes them in, and he shows them all that's in his storehouses. It says here in verse 13, the silver, the gold, the spices, everything found among his treasury. There was nothing in his palace or all his kingdom that Hezekiah did not show him. Well, that wasn't the right thing to do, because the prophet Isaiah comes and tells him, "What did you do?" He said, "I showed them everything." And this is what he says from the Lord. He said, "There is a time where everything in your palace and everything that has been done, that you have done, will all be taken off, and your descendants that will be born to you will be taken away, and will even become eunuchs in the palace of Babylon." Now, it seems as we're looking and understanding Hezekiah's life here, that he does have a weakness, a stronghold. Before it was, I'm going to use money to appease the king of Assyria. Here it's, I'm going to show this new king all the money that I've received back and show him my wealth. And there's some pride there. And unlike what Hezekiah did the first time, where he pleaded with his life and he wasn't prideful, and God saw his humble heart and heard his prayers and answered him, here's Hezekiah's response. And this just saddens me. It says, "The word of the Lord you had spoken is good," Hezekiah replied. "Really?" For he thought, "Will there not be peace and security in my lifetime?" Tragic. Who is Hezekiah thinking about? He's thinking about numero uno, just himself, just one. Sadly, it didn't matter that everything in his palace would be carried off. It didn't matter that the city would be destroyed. It didn't even come to mind that his children would now be taken off and be even eunuchs in some other country. All he cared about was himself. And this is a sad state to say that. What are we thinking about when it comes to the next generation? Because much like we looked at Hezekiah's life, how his great-great-great-great-grandmother way back wanted to kill all the grandchildren to secure her throne, and then his father even sacrificed Hezekiah's brothers, we know that generations affect generations. So even having that knowledge didn't even faze him to think, what lasting impact can I have before I go? The Lord has been gracious to me 15 years. How can I do that wisely? Because I do think that he could have been in a place to, at least what we know, repent. But now, here's the trick question. Did he end well? Well, if we went off of that note in what I said in 2 Kings 20, it just ends and says that he was wrestled with his father, and we know his son would take over, who was quite wicked. So we see that there was a lack of teaching his children the decrees of the Lord and following God's ways faithfully, as Manasseh, his son, would be one of the most evil kings. But when we jump to a parallel section, and this is what you didn't know, but I wanted to make this video to let you know, is that in 2 Chronicles, which is a parallel account, gives us a little bit more detail about Hezekiah's life here. And this gives me a sigh of relief because it says this in 2 Chronicles 32, verses 24 and 25. Says, in those days Hezekiah became ill and was at the point of death. He prayed to the Lord, who answered him and gave him a miraculous sign. We know that. But now look at this. But Hezekiah's heart was proud, and he did not respond to the kindness shown him. Therefore the Lord's wrath was on him and Judah and Jerusalem. So we do see, according to this account, that there was some repercussions for Hezekiah. And verse 26 reveals it all. That then Hezekiah repented of the pride of his heart, as did the people of Jerusalem. Therefore the Lord's wrath did not come upon them during the days of Hezekiah. So I'm hoping that this account correlated well to right after he said that horrible statement of, at least I'm secure and I'm good in my lifetime, which is a selfish and natural thinking that we all might think. But that this was the pride that he repented of. And if so, we won't know until we for sure get to heaven. If so, he ended his life well. Because even though there was the mistake, again, of his entrapment with wealth and how to use that for his own advantage, we do see at the end of Chronicles that he was buried with his fathers, and all of Judah and the people of Jerusalem honored him when he died. So there was even people that would agree that say he did end well. And I say this brief teaching and this exhortation for us to continue running the race, that we will make mistakes, yes. And we might not know how much life we have, like the blessing Hezekiah received. We may be gone tomorrow. So our legacy actually starts now. How are we impacting the next generation? How are we making sure that we are asking for forgiveness and humbling ourselves before the Lord? Even if it seems small, it could have a greater degree of impact than we think. So let us not harden our hearts today when we hear this message, but let's run to the throne of God, who, as we see, will hear our prayers, forgive us, and bless us beyond our understanding. So God bless you, and have an incredible week.